Hello, fabulous knitter friends. This is Rachel from Treehouse Knits. Welcome to episode, what are we on? 29 of the podcast. We're getting up there in numbers. How fun. Can't believe I'm almost hitting 30. That's exciting. Well, this morning I woke up very early, so I kind of feel like it's already afternoon, but really it's mid-morning. I took my 8th grader to school really early this morning to send him off on his 8th grade class trip. And it was fun to see all the tired kids with their backpacks and sleeping bags. They're going rafting and then to Cedar Point, which was definitely a highlight when I was in 8th grade. So I'm excited for him. He's excited to ride all the roller coasters and have a great time. But I have a high schooler coming up this fall, which is different for me. I'm excited about it, but a little nervous too. So anyway, that's my story this morning. I hope you guys are doing well and you've had time to do the things you love to do, time to create. I have a few things to share with you today. Hopefully we'll keep it under 30 minutes or close to that. We'll talk briefly about the knit along that is starting this Friday, June 1st. I am co-hosting that with Denise from Earth Tones Girl, and we're really excited about that. I'm going to share with you a few of my finished objects that I've had over the past couple of weeks, as well as an old project old work in progress, I should say, that I've picked up again and decided to I'll show you in a little bit later. I'm also starting a couple of new mitten patterns for that knit along, so I will share with you kind of how I get started when I begin my project, the things that I get into place and organized, because I really feel like if you set yourself up for success as best you can, you will in the end be able to create what you want to create. So, and you'll have fun doing it instead of aggravation along the way. I also want to share with you briefly a little trip that I took to the other side of the state. I'm here in Grand Rapids and I headed over to a small town kind of north of the Detroit area for a trip to a local knitting store there. And then just some of my favorite things that are happening or that I'm reading. I'll share those with you in the end. So we'll get started. The knit along. I am so excited to be co-hosting with Denise of Earth Tones Girl, our first summer mitten knit along. We are hosting it June 1st through July 31st. You probably know if you follow on Instagram, whips are included in that. We both have Ravelry podcast pages. She's Earth Tones Girl, mine is the Treehouse Knits podcast. On Ravelry, we have chatter threads, and on June 1st, we will start our finished objects threads as well. We will be, both of us will be having our own giveaways throughout the 2 months. We may have some surprise giveaways. We will probably have at least a giveaway the end of June and then a final giveaway the end of July. I'll share with you some of the cool things that I'm planning for my giveaways. First off, I'm going to have a couple of giveaways of Rauma Phenol Garn, and I thought these colors were kind of fun together. I think what I'll do is I will just random number on the chatter thread, and then I will let you probably choose the pattern that you would like, and then I'll send it to you via gift on Ravelry. But these are the two colors, the two color combinations that I came up with. And then Ann Tudor generously donated to the podcast this set of summer-inspired stitch markers. These are all ice cream cones. I thought they were perfect, and thank you to Ann Tudor for her amazing blown glass stitch markers. They're so beautiful in person. And it's taking all my might not to just take one of those off and save it for me, but nope, these are going to a special knit along person. So that's so far what I have. If you're a maker and you want to join in on the giveaways, certainly let me know. Give me a shout out, and we can work together and do something on that end. Denise and I, are going to be trying to host an Instagram live on Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the US. We're going to share with you kind of how to get started, the rules of the knit along briefly, but it'll just be a kind of open discussion. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I hope some of you can join us, and if we're able, we will save that on Instagram for 24 hours, and we will try and save that as well on YouTube. But this is all new to both Denise and I, so we will see what ends up happening. But we're looking forward to that Instagram live on this Friday. That's in 2 days at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I think that's all I wanted to tell you about that knit along. I'm also hosting the year-long knit along. You'll see in my podcast page on Ravelry a Year of the Mitten knit along. Continue putting your projects in there, and in June I will be drawing the next time. That'll be from numbers 136 onward on that. So check out that. Just keep putting your finished objects in there or chatter away. We're just going to go ahead and pick from there. And if you have not checked out that thread, that would give you a lot of ideas for mittens if you're interested in knitting along. Back to the summer mitten knit along, I have created a bundle which you will find a link to in my podcast Ravelry page and Denise's, that I just kind of made a bundle of all summer inspired mitten patterns that I saw on Ravelry. Of course, there's plenty more, and the rules are pretty loose on what, it's really what summer means to you. So check out that bundle. It's just really fun to look through, and maybe it'll inspire you to pick out a pattern and join us. Okay, so that's all I have for administration. So, okay, so the pattern that started it all for me, that made me want to knit a summer infused mitten, was the Sweet Nectar Mitt by Tanis Lavallee. And she is Tanis of Tanis Fiber Arts. And several years ago, she came up with this particular pattern, the Sweet Nectar Mitt pattern, and created her own dyed yarn kits for it. When I saw this pattern, I just knew I had to knit it. And then when I talked to Denise about a possible knit along, and we both decided on a summer inspired mitten knit along, these were right in the forefront. And Denise is actually knitting up a version of them as well. I knit them up using Legacy Fiber Arts, that's Sue and Chelsea, their Emerald City colorway. And then these mitts are lined, so I'll show you in a minute what I lined them with, but I'm just putting them on right now so you can see. And here they are. Aren't these gorgeous? I love how you can hold your hand up and it looks like the hummingbird is getting nectar from the flower. And then this is the other side of the mitten, and then I will show you what I lined them with this beautiful merino Swans Island that I picked up a couple years ago. I went to Maine and we stopped in at the Swans Island shop, and they had a sale room, and in the sale room they had just a variety of different ends and things you could buy, and this was one of them that didn't have a label on it other than it said it was 100% merino. Maybe it was dyed incorrectly for their customer, but it is the softest, most beautiful yarn, and it created this fabric that is so soft. Not that the Legacy Fiber Arts 100% merino DK yarn isn't soft, but when you combine the two, oh, it's such a great mitten. So far, I think this might be my most favorite mitten that I've knit so far. I don't know, I say that about every mitten, don't I? Like I said, this was knit using the DK weight, and then when you make the liner, you use a fingering weight. And I thought the liner would be kind of fussy. I thought, oh, this is going to add so much time to the project, and it really didn't. In fact, I kind of felt like, when you run a race and they tell you after you've run for miles and, they say you should walk it off, don't just lay down. That's kind of how I felt about knitting this liner. It was like the relaxing part of the pattern. I didn't have to have a chart. I didn't have to look at numbers. Basically, to knit a lining, you just pick up stitches around, and then you just knit until I was just using my other mitten as a guide, and then I followed the thumb pattern for the thumb, and then just again knit until I got to the top of the mitten, and then all you have to do is shove it in there and you've got your liner. And this knit up so fast, even though it's a fingering weight, I still used my size 5 needle, so it went really fast. And I think the outcome is so worth the extra effort. It's made me feel like I want to line all of my projects. I continue to love my Chiagu. I use a 32-inch size 5 needle. I love the join and I love the cord. I love the length, a 32-inch for one mitten at a time. I don't think I'd ever try 2 mittens at a time, but when I do socks 2 at a time, I like a 40-inch, but this 1 at a time magic loop 32-inch for me is just the perfect length for the mitten. So there you go. I started these mittens a couple weeks ago thinking I would just get it started because works in progress count, not that it matters since I'm not eligible to win any prizes for our knit along, but I thought I'd just get it started and I could not put this down. While I love knitting with the Norwegian yarns, the Rauma Phenol Garn, and now I've got the Sport DK weight as well, I really enjoyed using a superwash merino. I think there's a place for all types of yarn in these mittens, and I think they did a beautiful job of showing the color work, and they give you, look at all those different colors in the yarn that Sue's dyed up. It's just got such beautiful depth of color. It almost looks like a stained glass window. I can't say enough about this yarn. And what I found out is when I was done, I weighed my mittens, and that was before I put the liner in, and I realized that I have enough yarn, if I want, to make a whole nother set of mittens. I mean, I have a ton of yarn left, so it's a great value when you get the Legacy Fiber Arts yarn. I really think it is. Here's the label too. It came with the yarns, so check them out. Go to legacyfiberarts.com to check out what kits Sue and Chelsea have created for our knit along. One final thing that I loved about this pattern, and I don't want to give away the pattern, but I just want to show you how the designer has laid out the pattern. She has given the right and the left mitten, and it's on each side of the paper. I love how it's put in a landscape version because I was able to fold my sheet in half and put it, these are the little things that get me excited, but it fit then in my knitting bag, and I didn't have a crease on the area that I was trying to read for the chart, and my post-it note or highlighter tape, whatever you use to keep track of the rows, didn't get all crunched up too. That was huge. I love this way, and when I design more mitts in the future, I think I will go ahead and try and do it that way as well. So I just wanted to point that out. I got a great question on the YouTube comments from last episode. It was from Kathy, who asked what she wanted us to share some mittens that might work really well for newer color work mitten folk. And what came to me initially was really to find a pattern that looks like it wouldn't have a lot of floats that needed to be caught, and then think about using a pattern that maybe just has color work on the cuff or a little bit of color work on the mitten and a lot of just knitting without doing color work. That would be a good thing to look for. And if you find a pattern that's full of color work, you can just ignore a lot of the color work and just do what you want to do and leave out the rest. Just knit the background color instead of doing color work. So when you look at a pattern, don't think you have to knit it the exact way that it is. If it's got a really pretty cuff, just do the color work on the cuff. The pattern that I think of right away is Pia Kamaborn, her, oh, what are those? The rose mittens, I think they're called, and they're just the cuff. And you also learn how to do the Latvian braid on that. So that might be a nice mitten to start out with as well. If anybody has any other ideas for easier color work patterns, put that down below if you could. I'd also choose a pattern that's DK or worsted weight. I wouldn't start out with a fingering weight pattern just because you'll get success a lot faster and it'll keep you motivated to finish, which is always a good thing when you're learning something, to get that first project under your belt. So I just wanted to mention that, and thanks Kathy for the question. The other project that I got done these past couple of weeks was a sample knit for the beautiful shop in Cedar, Michigan that's up in the Leelanau Peninsula, Wool and Honey. They had a call out several weeks ago asking for folks if they were interested to let them know if they'd be interested in being sample knitters, and I jumped at the chance and I knit the, it's a hat. Oh my gosh, what's the name of the hat? But I knit it with, it's the bracket. I knit the bracket hat with stone wool, Cormo, which was incredible. And of course I've had to ship it off already, but I did take some pictures before, and here they are right here. Honestly, I cannot say enough about this stone wool Cormo. The they describe the wool as a kind of hybrid between a woolen spun and a worsted spun, and I have to agree. It was a little bit heavier than a woolen spun hat would be because the woolen spun is a lot loftier, and when the fibers are spun, the fibers are kind of going in all directions, so that creates a lot of air in the final yarn, whereas a worsted spun yarn, all the fibers are combed and they're all going in the same direction, and then they're twisted, so that's using a lot more fiber, and that makes the final garment or the yarn heavier. And I'm not sure what their process is, but it is a hybrid between the two. And while it was still had a very nice loft to it and warmth, it also was a very strong wool yarn, a very strong yarn. So, and it had a really nice, almost a nice sheen to it that you get more often with a worsted spun yarn. So I got the tobacco colorway, which was gorgeous. It was a color I don't think I would have chosen for myself, but man, I wish I could have kept that hat and worn it. It was gorgeous. And I can't say enough about the pattern too. The bracket pattern, while I did find an error in the pattern, just some of the decreases in the chart, and I've noted that in my Ravelry page for bracket, the pattern was wonderful. It was just enough rest time between using a cable needle, if that makes sense. And I loved also the lace within it. It sounds like it's a little more complicated than it really was. It was a lot of repetition, doing the same thing over and over, and just a beautiful end result that could be for a man or a woman. So I think it would be a great Christmas gift hat pattern too. So check it out. You can check my Ravelry page for anything that I'm talking about, but specifically I do have some information about the bracket hat on my Ravelry podcast page. Okay, so the other thing that I just was inspired to pull out, I kind of felt like knitting again with some linen, and I remembered last summer I'd worked on a linen bag. I watched the Espace Tricot podcast last year, and they had a linen yarn that was underneath the Espace Tricot name that they had sourced from, I think it was Lithuania maybe. And I loved what they were creating, and I thought it'd be fun to make some sort of bag. So I knit, if you'll remember, this really big bag last summer with these colors, and this has been blocked, but I always wanted to line it. And I had plans to line the bag with some sort of fabric, but I realized after sitting on it for a year that fabric would make it stiff on the inside, and what's pretty I think about the linen bag is the drape and the stretchiness of it. So I thought about my sweet nectar mitts and how I lined those, and I thought, well, why don't I apply the same technique to the bag? So instead of getting this fingering weight linen, I decided to get some sort of cotton and get it in a little heavier weight. So I think this is a DK weight, and I picked it up at Joann's. It's this Bernat Softy Baby Cotton. It has a wonderful hand. It is cotton and it is acrylic. It just feels like it would be really nice and washable and knit up well for the inside of the bag. So I went ahead and picked up stitches. Where this brown ends is my area that I picked up stitches, and I'm just going to probably knit the length of the bag. I'll get down to this brown part. And then I think what I'll do is bind off, and then I want to find something heavier, so I'm going to look for some maybe faux piece of plastic or a faux leather or something that's in the shape of this bottom, the rectangle. And then I think I'm going to punch holes all around the rectangle and then maybe crochet the lining into it. That's what I've got in my head right now. I'm kind of just doing it as I go. But I would like the base to be a little heavier. And then I've got a whole bunch of old belts, my kids' belts from when they were little. As they grow, their belts get bigger, and I've just saved them along the way. And I've got some brown belts that I might change into handles for it. So that's the plan. I'm excited about it, and this will be great, just potato chippy knitting. It's just straight stockinette in the round. It'll take a while, and we'll see where we go with it. I'll share with you where I'm at with it as it gets done, but I'm excited to get that done this summer. Again, I'm using this fabulous bag from a viewer that gave it to me. I love, love, love this bag. I'm really into these drawstring bags this summer for some reason. I don't know. I'm just not that I don't like zippered bags, but I'm just really enjoying the drawstring. So that is that project. I do have a couple of projects that I am planning on casting on in the next week or so, and I thought it'd be fun to just share with you how I kind of prepare myself when I'm starting one of these colorwork mitten patterns. The next colorwork mitten pattern I've decided on, and the last couple of podcasts I've had a flurry of ideas and I haven't started them yet, and now with the summer mitten knit along happening, I really want to pick a pattern that speaks summer to me. And I've had in my queue for a long time a pattern called Anne's Flowers, and it is by Venke Rolled. And if you recall, I did a Venke Rolled pattern. That was, I think, my first colorwork mitten that I did. Let's see if I can find it. It was this pattern. Don't look too closely. There's, a lot of mistakes in this pattern, but I love this pattern. And ever since I knit this, I've wanted to do another Venke Rolled pattern. She just has a real way with, I love the graphic nature of her patterns, and her stitch count, her length, it all works for my hands really well too. I've noticed my first and my latest pattern mittens are the ones that fit the best. So the next pattern that I'm going to do is called Anne's Flowers by Venke Rolled. And here's the pattern. I love the detail on the cuff. I love that the cuff has color work. I love the geometric nature of the flowers at the top. And it has a wider cuff, which I love. And it also has that Selbu style thumb, which seems to fit really nice for me. I'm going to be doing it in 3 colors. One of the first things that I do when I get a pattern is obviously I print it off, and sometimes I don't even print the whole pattern, I just print out the charts. But when I print it out, I at least try and make the chart the size that I want, if it's not already. And you just increase it on your copy machine, or you go to a Kinko's and have it increased, decreased, whatever. The size of the charts in this pattern are perfect size for me. I don't like them too big, but I don't like them too small either. So once I have the chart, the pattern printed out, I've also done it online with my app that I shared with you in a podcast or 2 ago. What is that app called? It's called, I'll put it down here. I've used it a couple times, and I think it's great, especially if you're traveling and you don't want to carry a lot with you, carry pattern pages, that kind of thing. But in this case, lately I've been really enjoying just using a hard copy version. So I will print it out, and then I just go ahead and, I don't know if I've shared this with you, I just started making these type of project bags. I should make a few more and stick them in my Etsy shop. I love these as little toolkits because I can see what's in there so easily and just pull it out. There's no searching. I love it. And I've got my Post-it notes here. I really like this particular size. Let me see here. This size, it's hard to find. It's 3 by 5. I could not find this size at my local paper copy store like Office Max, but I did find them online on Amazon.com. It's a great size, and what I like is the glue is along the long end. You can find ones that have glue along the top end, like a list, but I couldn't find the glue on the long end until I went to Amazon. So then what I do is I just get that in place, and that's just how I keep track of the rows. I just work my way up. As I'm knitting, you don't want to put the Post-it underneath. You want to see what you've done so that you can really build upon that. That helps you with your row when you can see what the previous row looks like when you're knitting the color work. So that is what I do. And then what I do is I get my yarn ready. Now it's tempting, I don't have a skein here to show you. Oh yeah, well it's tempting to just go ahead and start knitting from these skeins. They're already wound up, so you can if you want, but I find that it drives me nuts the way that the yarn is constantly, the ball of yarn, it has to twist and it just flails all over and becomes a mess. So what I do is I just go ahead and cake them up on my ball winder, and then since this is going to be my 3 colors, and I'll pull it out more, I put them all on the bottom with my main color in the middle and then my 2 contrasting colors on each side, and they're center pull balls, and then you will have no problem with balls of yarn moving and trying to yank them out. I don't like that. So anyway, here are my 3 colors. I wonder if I can just keep them in here. Maybe. Okay, so in the center I've got this charcoal gray, and then I've got this really cool kind of modern mustardy green yellow, and then this really pretty fuchsia color. And the plan is to cast on where the white is there, or that cream, I'm going to do in the hot pink, and then the cuff I'm going to do in the dark gray and the green, the yellow green, and then the body of the mitten I am going to do in the gray and pink. So that's the plan. With these colors, I think it'll be super fun, and I'm just super excited to get this pattern started. I think that's all I wanted to share with you right now. I am, the pattern calls for fingering weight. I have found that for my hand size, when I knit a pattern that has 66 stitches in the round, a DK Sport Weight fits me better, and I use a bigger needle. She calls for a US 1.5, and I'm actually using a 5 at this point. I may go down to a 4, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna start knitting and see what I feel. So that's the plan. Super excited about that colorway, super excited. So I've had some fun things that I've done in the last couple of weeks and wanted to share those with you. I think it's been a couple weeks now ago, I traveled to a small town north of Detroit called Lake Orion, and there is a beautiful knitting store called Heritage Spinning and Weaving. This is a store that is really staying true to its roots of having high quality yarn. They have a whole wall of Jameson, and they have a ton of Rauma, and that's really why I went there. I really wanted to experience and to touch and feel the different types of Rauma that would be great in these colorwork mittens. I didn't share with you the type of yarn that I'm using for that last pair. I ended up getting Tumi. Tumi is 50% alpaca, 50% wool, and it's just a little bit softer and has just a little bit more sheen than the Phenol Garn or the 3-ply Sport Weight. So I'm excited to try this. That's Tumi, T-U-M-I. I'm sure I'm not saying it correctly, but that, and it is a DK, Sport DK weight. And while I was there, another reason I went is that I have wanted to meet a couple of podcast viewers and Instagram friends, and I got to meet Anne and I got to meet Shelley in person. And I've heard other people say I've spoken to them so often on Instagram, and through the podcast I kind of felt like I already knew them. We had a great time chatting around the table. It just happened to be social knitting time at the store, so met a lot of other lovely ladies there. And it is so true. You get a group of knitters together and you immediately can start talking. If you've got knitting in your hand, conversation flows. It's so cool. Knitters are the nicest people in the world. This whole community online as well, everyone is just so interesting and smart. So many smart people are knitters. I just love getting to know you all, and it was a treat meeting Anne and Shelley, and I will put a picture in here of the three of us. So if you're ever in the Detroit area and are interested in not only seeing Jameson, but also seeing a bunch of Rauma and weaving and spinning tools and accessories, check them out. They've been there for a long time. I don't know when the store was founded, but it is full of very knowledgeable staff and amazing to see, especially the weaving. I enjoyed seeing the weaving, and it kind of got the weaving bug in me now too. Like I need another hobby, but it was a fun trip. So check them out. And thanks again, Anne and Shelley, for heading over and meeting me. This coming weekend is a cool event by Plucky Knitter. Plucky is based out of Michigan here, and they have an actual brick and mortar shop in Hastings, Michigan, that they're having kind of a pop-up shop this weekend. And I guess other stores within the village of, or the town of Hastings, are also opening their doors. It sounds like a lot of people are coming into town to see Plucky, of course. I'm sure it's going to be packed, and I hope to be one of them, maybe on Saturday. It is only, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes from my house, so I really should head on over there and take a look. I love Plucky Knitter, so it's just fun to see it in person. It's hard to buy online. I've always had problems figuring out how to order online. It just seems like a lot of work. I have bought Plucky Knitter. They do occasionally in Grand Rapids, they will do a Plucky Shindig, and I have gone to that a couple of times, and it's always a packed room. Oh, it's always hard to buy Plucky Knitter. So I'm excited to go to this brick and mortar shop and see what it's all about this week, because their yarn is incredible. They have so many different unique blends. If you go onto their website and just take a look at their different yarn bases, they've got some really cool ones, and I'm sort of interested in yak. That's what I'm going to be looking for if I go on Saturday. The other thing that I just started, I was so excited when this book came out. It's so funny, when this book came out, I think it popped up on my Goodreads, and I loved the cover so much. When you love a cover, it's kind of like when you like a wine bottle label, you buy the wine. My husband would not like me saying that. Anyway, I saw this cover and I right away said, oh, I have to read it. And then, I don't know, maybe a month or so later, Wool and Honey sent out an email about an event they were having and some yarn that they were getting dyed up based on the cover of this book. So I went ahead and I went to my library website, and unfortunately I was like 100 waiting in line to get the book, and then they called me up this week, so I did get a copy of The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin. And Chloe Benjamin is a New York Times best-selling author, and I believe she is also a knitter. I could be wrong though, I'm not sure, but anyway, she has written this book called The Immortalist, and she is going to be at Wool and Honey and the Cottage Bookshop in Glen Arbor the weekend of Friday, June 29th. And I'm planning on being up there for the week, so I might see if I can pop in. I just started the book. You can see my bookmark is really early on, but it already sucked me in. I'm only on page like 15, and I love it already. It's a great great idea for a story. It's 1969 in New York City's Lower East Side, and word has spread of the arrival of a mystical woman, a traveling psychic who claims to be able to tell anyone the day they will die. The Gold children, 4 adolescents on the cusp of self-awareness, sneak out to hear their fortunes. The prophecies inform their next 5 decades. Doesn't that sound interesting? So I'm looking forward to finishing that book. And then Wool and Honey, let me get the information here. They're welcoming Chloe for an evening of knitting and book signing, cocktails and yarn. We're featuring a host of kits designed in colors based on the Immortalist's gorgeous cover. The plan is to take a huge group picture at the party with our finished sweaters, shawls, cowls, and hats. We want you to be part of it. And I just want to show you, you can see there's the big cowl based on the colors of the book. Isn't that cool? And then you can click on a host of kits. Let me do that real quick. And here, I think that's Caitlin Hunter. Look at that cool cowl that she designed and that hat. Aren't those colors gorgeous together? And look at that color work. Sweater. So anyway, you know, when you combine 2 of my favorite things, reading and knitting, you gotta take part in it. And I'm really excited. I might have to take a look at those kits. That would be really cool. And I think the colors would be gorgeous for fall. Something for fall. Okay, so just looking at my notes, and you know, I have a little planner hack that I learned. Here's my show notes for you. If, you know, I want to keep it open, it's hard to keep it open. If you use your band, I did not come up with that. I saw somebody else do it and thought it was a good idea. Anyway, there you go. The new Shawl Society starts. Shawl Society 3, Helen Stewart's Shawl Society 3. And it's based on The Secret Garden, which is a book I've never read and I now have on my iPhone, and I'm reading it digitally, so I thought it'd be fun to read it as the shawls get sent out over the next, I think it's 6 shawls. I could be wrong, but I'm so excited. These Helen Stewart shawls, I've done all 3 now, Shawl Societies. For £12, you get a bunch of shawls that are beautiful, and you can use your stash, which I think is great. I love to use these single skeins of beautiful hand-dyed yarns that I have, and that's part of the fun. I'll have to insert a picture here. I'm working right now on figuring out the color choices. Here's some possibilities. Combining this really beautiful turquoisey blue with this stitched together Studio and Petoskey stone, or this 100 Ravens together with it, kind of giving you the Michigan waters and the Petoskey stones. And then we have my knit crate. It's coming across a little brighter than it is, but combining these 2 in here. Got a little hedgehog film noir with hedgehog teacup. That might be cool. Then we have a little, oh, what is that, Malabrigo. Either combining it with this Hugh Loco that I've had for a while, or this Sweet Georgia. These are all options for the next installment of the Shawl Society. So it's so fun for me to just pull out all the colors and see what will go well together. And then with the Shawl Society, you get the joy of doing that, but then you get the actual pattern. It's not like a mystery knit along. You get the actual pattern. And a lot of times once I get the pattern, that really helps me hone in on which yarn selection makes the most sense. And sometimes I just toss away all my ideas and grab something else. But it's just a great program, and the way that she lays out her patterns is so great, especially for newer shawl knitters, newer lace knitters. I can't say enough about this, so I'm really excited about this new Shawl Society 3 starting tomorrow. The last thing I want to share with you, I just happen to have it on my desk, so I thought I'd share it with you. Father's Day here in the U.S. is coming up soon, and if you have a father or a husband or whatever, a dad, that is into Star Wars, this is Han Solo in carbonite. I have no idea what this means, but it is part of a movie, and this is an ice tray that's going to make it look like Han Solo is coming out of carbonite. I know some of you understand this, and I know my husband is going to love it, so I thought I would share it. So there you go. And don't forget about your fathers on Father's Day. So I think that is all I wanted to share with you. If you can, join us live in 2 days on Friday, 10 a.m. East Coast time here in the U.S., or look for our Instagram story. I think it's held on there for 24 hours. It will be underneath Treehouse Knits because I'm going to start it, and then Denise is going to ask to join in. We'll see how this goes, but I'm really excited to try. And I did it once with Patricia P. Fortune, and that was a lot of fun. I think we learned, though, that we needed to wear, both of us should have headphones on, so the sound was better. But that's it for me. I hope you have a great couple of weeks. I hope you're enjoying the start of summer if you're here in the Northern Hemisphere. And, I don't know, what else is there to say other than I hope you're enjoying the things you love to do. And we'll see you on the next episode, episode 30 of Treehouse Knits. Bye!